You're sitting on the floor, back against the couch, not crying exactly, but not okay either. And before you've said a single word, before you've even moved, your dog walks across the room and presses their entire body against you. Just sits there, heavy, warm, like they knew. Here's the thing, they did, and the way they knew it has nothing to do with what you've been told about animal intelligence. Because what dogs are actually doing in that moment isn't what most scientists believed for decades. So what exactly is happening inside your dog's head when your mood shifts? And how deep does it really go? For most of human history, we assumed the emotional lives of animals were simple, reactive, instinctual. A dog that came to comfort you was just seeking attention or responding to some subtle physical cue you didn't notice you were giving. But somewhere along the way, researchers started asking a different question. Not does the dog react, but does the dog understand? That shift changed everything. Because once scientists started separating reaction from recognition, they discovered something that rewrites the entire story of what it means to share your life with another species. In 2014, a team of researchers in Hungary made a discovery that stopped the scientific community cold. They placed dogs inside brain scanners, the same kind used on humans, and played them recordings of voices, human voices, dog voices, happy sounds, distressed sounds, and what they found was astonishing. Dogs process emotionally charged human voices in a specific region of their brain, the same region humans use to process emotional sound. Think about what that means. When your voice cracks with sadness, your dog isn't just hearing a strange noise. Their brain is lighting up in a way that mirrors your own. The architecture for emotional listening was there all along, built into them, waiting. Here's where it gets strange. You'd assume that if dogs could hear the emotion in your voice, they'd need the full picture. Your face, your body language, your tone, all working together to really understand what you're feeling. The way a child needs context to read a room. But that assumption, it was completely wrong. In 2016, researchers in the UK presented dogs with photographs of human and dog faces. Just photographs, completely silent, showing either happiness or fear. Then they played audio that was either positive or negative in tone, but from a different source than the photo. What the dogs did next was remarkable. They looked significantly longer at the face that matched the emotional tone of the audio. Without any training, without any reward, they were cross-referencing emotion across two completely separate senses, spontaneously. That's not instinct, that's something closer to understanding. But scientists wanted to go further, past the face, past the voice, all the way down to what your body is doing at a chemical level. In 2022, a research team at Queen's University Belfast trained dogs to detect the difference between human breath and sweat samples, collected from the same people in calm states and then in stress states. No visual cues, no sound, pure chemistry, and the dogs identified the stress samples with an accuracy that reached up to 94%. 94. Your dog isn't just reading your face when you're struggling, they're smelling your cortisol. They're detecting the shift in your body's chemistry before it's even visible on your skin. You can hide your expression, you can control your voice, but you cannot hide your stress from a dog's nose. And this is the part nobody talks about. That ability didn't develop by accident. Dogs have been living alongside humans for somewhere between 15 and 40,000 years. That's thousands of generations of dogs who survived, thrived, and reproduced based partly on how well they could read the emotional state of the humans they depended on. The ones who missed the signals didn't fare as well. The ones who caught them did. Over millennia, natural selection quietly built a species that is, at a biological level, tuned to the frequency of human emotion. Let that settle for a moment. Your dog's ability to read you isn't a trick. It's evolution's answer to thousands of years of shared life. But even knowing all of that, one question remained. Does a dog actually care when you're upset? Or are they just very good at detecting a state they've learned to associate with changes in routine, tone, or behavior? In 2024, researchers in Austria tackled that directly. They exposed dogs to authentic human emotional expressions, not acted, not staged, and measured how the dogs responded. What they found was careful and precise. Dogs could distinguish real emotions from neutral states, and they responded differently depending on what they detected. But here's the nuance. The researchers concluded that dogs recognize human emotions without necessarily being empathic in the way we typically define empathy. They're not feeling what you feel, they're reading what you feel. processing it, and choosing a response. That distinction matters more than it might seem, because it leads directly to a moment in 2018 that flipped the entire conversation on its head. Researchers at Johns Hopkins University designed what became known, somewhat dramatically, as the Timmy's in the Well experiment, named after the classic scene where Lassie runs back to alert the family. They put dog owners behind a door that was easy to open and had them either hum a neutral tune or make sounds of distress as if they were trapped and hurt. The question was simple: would the dogs open the door to help? And they did open the door, but only some of them. The ones who opened it fastest, they weren't necessarily the most distressed by their owners crying. They were the calmest. The dogs who became highly anxious at the sounds of distress froze. They were overwhelmed, from reading an emotion to feeling overwhelmed by it, to being too flooded to act. In one experiment, the line between detection, response, and paralysis became visible for the first time. What this reveals isn't just a fact about dogs. It reveals something about how emotional intelligence actually works in the natural world, and it's far more complex than we imagined. The ability to read emotion and the ability to act on emotion are two separate systems, and they don't always move together. A dog can know you're sad with remarkable precision, chemically, acoustically, visually, and still be stopped at the threshold between knowing and doing by its own emotional state. That's not a failure, that's biology working exactly as it was designed to work. Because in the wild, an animal that becomes overwhelmed by the distress of others would be paralyzed constantly. The architecture of emotional detection was built to inform behavior, not to hijack it. Dogs that stayed calm enough to act were the ones that helped, and they were the ones that survived. What if the most powerful force shaping a species over thousands of years isn't brute survival, but emotional attunement? What if the ability to sense, read, and respond to the inner life of another creature, across species, without language, using only breath and expression and chemistry, is actually one of nature's most sophisticated adaptations? And if that's true, what does it mean that dogs didn't just develop this ability alongside humans, they developed it because of humans, their entire emotional architecture quietly reshaped by the emotional world we carry with us? Tonight, when you sit down after a long and heavy day, your dog will read you before you've said a word. They'll catch the cortisol shift in the air around you. They'll hear the weight in your voice before you open your mouth. They'll cross-reference your face against the room and know, in the specific and ancient way evolution built into them, that something is different. They are not guessing. They are not reacting blindly. They are doing something that took tens of thousands of years of shared life to build, something that blurs the line between instinct and understanding in a way science is still catching up to. You thought they were just your companion, but all along, they've been quietly fluent in a language you didn't even know you were speaking.